Locked on Longhorns, the show. Jonathan Davis, your host. And today for our UTSA preview, I got the Texas Homer with me. A lot of great Texas Longhorn content creators, and the Texas Homer brings a lot of heat, especially once a week when he gives the game breakdown. So, Homer, I got you here with me. A lot of people are calling this a trap game against UTSA. Some people have Texas on upset watch, and then some people say no matter who's at quarterback, Texas should blow UTSA out. So, what are you looking forward to in this game on Saturday against UTSA?
Yeah, it's going to be quarterback dependent at some level, right? If we're going with Charles Wright, that is going to limit the passing attack compared to a Quinn Ewers. On the lines, there's a huge difference there, right? They're hurting on offensive line. They're down to second, third string tackles, and they're ranking towards the bottom if added to the Big 12. So defensive line should be really good there. Our offensive line should do fine. They have a good D line, but our offensive line they did good against Alabama. So I'm not worried about trenches. I'm not worried about receivers, those kind of things. It would be mostly self-inflicted stuff. And UTSA doesn't roll over, man. Traylor's a real coach, man, and built a real culture there. I mean, your second year, you go 12-2 and win your conference. I don't care if it's group of 5 or not. That's impressive. So they just came off of 2 really hard games. Houston, triple overtime loss, Army, overtime win. So they're either really believing in themselves that they can take it far, or they're fatigued. And so you don't know. And so Traylor's interview that I watched yesterday, he was a little tentative, which surprised me. He was kind of like, yeah, we're going to go out there and try. But it felt like even he was kind of like, we're outmatched here. And so I blow him out. I can't say that. If you're playing with Quinn Ewers, I feel comfortable there. But there's so many new variables. Hopefully Bijan does play, those kind of things. But they're not going to give up. They've been down in Houston. They were down in Army. They came back. So they'll give you a good game. And if you absolutely overlook them, then they can stay in the game. And Frank Harris, I'm sure we'll talk about Frank Harris. That dude can ball, and he can lead you up the field on those kind of like game tying, game winning drives.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I'm not of the group that thinks that they should blow this team out with Charles Wright, who hasn't thrown a collegiate pass yet. I think we should pump the brakes on that one. I do think Texas will win, but I think it definitely will be a good game, at least for 3 quarters heading into the 4th quarter. You talked about Jeff Traylor's press conference. We'll get into the specifics of the UTSA Texas game a little bit more after this, but I want to get your thoughts, Homer, on another coach's press conference in Sark. And Sark was a little sassy with the media yesterday. They were asking him questions about the quarterbacks, and he basically said, there's a reason y'all aren't invited to practice. If I wanted y'all to know who the quarterback was, I would invite y'all to practice. Getting a little testy with the media, basically telling them without telling them, y'all need to stop asking me who this quarterback is going to be. Y'all see at 7 o'clock on Saturday night who the quarterback is. So what do you think about Sark being on offense, getting a little aggressive with the Texas media, asking him questions about who the quarterback is going to be?
I like it. He's getting comfortable, man. And he's starting to take ownership. That first year with the media, you have to figure out, there's certain media members that are there for the right reasons and legitimately are like, hey, what's the injury report? Very factual. I need to report it to my audience. There's other media members that have pre-written stories that are trying to jam your quote into some larger context. And you start to figure that out. And so I think he's starting to figure out, who wants the clicks and who's doing hard journalism. And so I do like these feeling more comfortable there. It's like the Nick Saban press conference. I do think there's a little more confidence after that Bama game in him. But young Sark, this is what's interesting about him. He used to be much more intense, bordering on cocky when he was young at USC. There's a lot of great stories about him, but that's just a young guy in general, right? You're the OC at USC. You're in your 20s. Like when you're in your 20s, you're kind of just cocky. And so he always has had that competitive fire. And as he's matured and aged and gone through, he's become a little more held back. But that's still in it, man. Like you look at photos in his eyes and game day, he's intense and he's an intense competitor. So I think for us, it's new to see that with Sark, but that's who he is. And he does have boundaries that at some point he has to establish with the media. And so I liked it. I think it was a sign of him kind of more coming into his own and taking ownership of the Texas program.
Yeah, before we get back into the preview of the UTSA game, and I agree everything you said with Sark. You have to understand, especially at a school like Texas, the media can be a little much at times, and so you have to keep that type of storm in control, a la his mentor Nick Saban, how he does at Alabama. So, like I said, before we get into this UTSA preview, you break down this team and their opponents each week in very great detail, telling us how their opponents, at least thus far in the non-conference schedule, would do in the Big 12, and how Texas matches up against them with each unit, offensive and defensive. So, how would you grade this team if you had to give them a letter grade through the first 2 weeks? How would you grade this team thus far?
So for this year, they have not been performing as well as they did last year. But they also started off with 25 Houston. Then you go to Army, which is just a grinding team.
Oh, no, Texas, my bad. I'm sorry. Texas.
Okay.
How would you grade Texas through the first 2 weeks?
I'll give Texas right now. I'd give them an A-, and I lean towards B+ with some of the run game issues. So somewhere in that range.
Okay. So now we can talk about UTSA. Where are the strengths and the weaknesses on this team right now?
So strengths are going to be at quarterback. Frank Harris is super impressive, can extend plays. He's accurate when he's not under pressure. He's going to be under a lot of pressure. Strengths, of course, I think the biggest strength is that wide receiver room. Cephas, Franklin, DeCorian Clark, all different skill sets, all very talented, all have played together. DeCorian Clark looks like an NFL player, dude. Like, he makes some acrobatic. That's a nice looking player, dude. And so Zachary Franklin kind of reminds me of Worthy, and that kind of lean strider that can do it all. Not at that full ability level, but physically how they move on the field. So I really like the receiver room. Defensively, I like their run defense. I like specifically their second string nose and Lamonte McDougal. I think that's an NFL player. And then I like what they do. They bring a lot of pressure on third down schematically. I like weaknesses. I would say 100% their O-line, which then in turn affects their running game and running backs. So they really have struggled to get the ball going and running at all. And we know that when you do that, you're going to limit Frank Harris because we're going to know the pass is coming. And then second is their secondary. So, and Jeff Traylor said yesterday that, hey, that 305 yards passing from Army, that was on me. I purposely sold out to stop the run. So we weren't going to let them beat us running it down our throats. So we'll see if that was the case, but Houston moved it pretty well. So you want to attack their secondary on defense in the pass. And then on offense, you want to attack that offensive line and stifle those running backs.
Yeah, so I had Josh Neighbors from Locked On Big 12 on the show earlier in the week, and something he said that really stuck with me was that you can't let Alabama beat you twice. So how does this Texas Longhorns team not allow a tough UTSA team to come in and beat them, or this Texas team not allow Bama to beat them twice, as he said?
I think that's the difference, man. I think that's what we're looking at, because the Texas team, remember the jokes this preseason was like, Texas is the type of team to beat Alabama and then lose to UTSA. Like, that was the jokes. And that's because we have seen us play up to competition. And mostly we're talking Herman, not Sark, but even last year. So that is the test. That is what I'm interested to see, is that do we take UTSA just as seriously? To me, it's similar to Louisiana last year. Really good G5 team that was competing for their conference, great coach, great culture. Napier went on to Florida. So I think that's kind of the similar thing, but it might be Alabama beats you twice because they injured everybody as well. So that's where Bama kind of has a lasting effect. But yeah, I'm 100% agree with him. I'm looking to see if we can come out with that same intensity. Do the fans with that same intensity, and can we not play up or down, or just always kind of play with that Sarkisian standard?
Quick word from BetOnline, and then we're going to talk offensive and defensive game plans with Texas Homer against UTSA. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. Find all of the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's opening week games. BetOnline is also your continued source for all your sport wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. Bet online, where the game starts. So, Homer, you talked about Alabama beating you up, and this Texas team is dealing with some injuries. Sark said that Hudson Card, Quinn Ewers, Bijan Robinson, and Deshaun Jameson are all day today. None of us know for sure, and if we ask, Sark will get pissed off at us, but we think that the quarterback starting on Saturday night is going to be Charles Wright, the pride of Austin High, the red shirt freshman who's going to get a chance to beat Jeff Traylor in that UTSA program that you spoke glowingly about in the first 10 minutes. So what is the best way for Sark to attack this defense with Charles Wright at the helm? And I heard you in your breakdown video, you mentioned possibly the Wildcat package with Roschon Johnson as well. So how do you think Sark attacks this defense via the Wildcat or with Charles Wright at quarterback?
So I think Sark's always going to try to attack deep, especially with Wright. Maybe early, let's see if he can do it, right? Let's not assume he can't. If he's making a sketchy throw or something, but let's see, because in high school he had good deep accuracy. So we want to see if he can do that, but throw short, right? Get into the hands of our faster guys, Worthy, see if they can break long runs after that. And then we want to see if the run game can get established. Now, they have a good run defense. They just prepped for Army all last week, which is one of the most known rushing attacks there is. So they're going to have that kind of advantage. We might be playing into their strength, and we haven't been great run blocking or getting big yards. We pulled our starters in ULM in the third, and then we played against a great Alabama run defense. So we do want to see if we can run against them. But I think offensively, throw it short, slants, make it easy, and then when Worthy does get behind the defense, because they've shown you can get behind them, tell Charles Wright, man, just take a moonshot. Let Worthy treat it like a punt and get under it. You don't have to drop dimes. We just have to be effective. But I think no matter what, Sark is going to be aggressive, because we thought with Alabama he's going to pass short too, early to get it established. No, he didn't. He's going right at him. So I think he wants to put that fear of God in you early, no matter who it is, that, hey, you have to defend deep. So now we can run. So I think you can still take your shots early with Charles Wright, and then, of course, Roschon. But Traylor in his press conference said, I was really impressed with what Sark did at Kansas State with Roschon. So he was signaling, like, you're not sneaking up on us. And they just, like I said, Army's an option rushing attack. So that turns us into a rushing attack, option rushing attack. So it'll be interesting, man. I think there's good chess there. And if it is Charles Wright, man, if he can connect on some of those deep shots, then we can have the full offense.
Yeah, you mentioned in your breakdown video and a little bit in this video that the run blocking through 2 weeks has not been great for the Texas Longhorns. So do you see that as a solvable issue moving forward? Do you think the loss of Junior Angilau is affecting that? What do you think is going on with the run blocking up front that hasn't been great thus far through 2 weeks for the Longhorns?
It's been a flip of last year. Like, our run blocking was really good last year. Like, we were top 35 in the nation for line yards, and our pass blocking was awful. And it's totally flipped. Our pass blocking has looked really good, and our run blocking's looked awful. So I think with run blocking, I don't think that we're weak. I mean, literally all of our guys have gotten bigger. So I think that there's just it's getting unified and making sure everybody knows who to block, and we can execute gap schemes, zone schemes. I think it'll come together as the season goes further. I think it's hard to always know your assignment and get your exact block on runs. Pass blocking, if they're not doing anything crazy, this guy's coming at me, I stop him. But when you have all this pulling stuff and then zones and they're changing their fronts on you in the run game, get a little trickier. So I don't think it's a size issue. I don't think it's a toughness issue. I think all of our guys are pretty intense. I think it's just probably a coordination issue right now in the run game.
Yeah, so on the defensive side, you mentioned they have to come with the same intensity that they did against Alabama, and this is a defense, albeit through 2 weeks, is the 50th defense in the country right now, and they're only giving up 15 points a game, 30 points on the season total. So how can they bring that same effort against UTSA and stop a dual threat quarterback in Frank Harris? What is the best way to contain him from what you've seen through the research?
Yeah, so our defensive line, if they play with that effort, they're going to eat up UTSA's line. And it's not a fault of UTSA. They had a great line last year. They're just decimated in injury. Now, the trick is you have to stay disciplined, right? So people think collapsing the pocket or containing someone is like putting a circle around them. It's like a shield. You want it to be tight and on them. And so you want to collapse really in. You don't want to encircle somebody or ensnare them because he'll be able to get out. So as long as they can tack, especially Ovi, you got to stay flat. If you run downfield, any edge runs downfield, Harris can take off. So that's a trick. And then this is the game where I think you can spy Harris with DeMarvion. And so whenever Harris does, he's going to be under pressure and his passing goes down and he almost looks to run first in that situation. So you need somebody watching him. Linebackers have to track him down. Tucker Dorsey's pretty good with his instincts there. So that'll be the biggest key on defense, I think. And secondary-wise, Alabama kind of opened up a blueprint where, hey, when you really want to push it on Texas, you need to do quick outs and then hit occasionally over the field. That's what Bryce was dinking and dunking us at the end. Well, they'll do the same thing to us. They did it to Houston whenever they were driving down on them. So don't play soft. If it gets into a close game and they can drive up the field, don't play soft on them. Don't let, because they'll run to the sticks and they'll run right back. And that's what Alabama did. So play good man. They have good receivers. They're still going to make some plays, but play aggressive across the board and then limit Harris as much as you can. And then we want to see those interceptions from Jameson if he plays. We do need to generate more turnovers. We haven't done a good job of that yet.
Yeah. So thankfully they don't have a Jahmyr Gibbs coming out of the backfield, because I feel like that whole last drive, they were just giving it to Jahmyr Gibbs like Alvin Kamara out of the backfield. And that's such a tough matchup one-on-one with the linebacker in coverage. He's probably the best pass catching back in the nation. So what type of game do you think we have with UTSA on Saturday? Do you think this is a high-scoring game that Sark is still able to put up a bunch of points with Charles Wright? Or do you think this is a grinded-out game? Not saying it's going to be close, but maybe a lower-scoring game where Texas still is able to win, let's say, by 10-plus points. So do you see both teams putting up a lot of points, or this being a lower-scoring game than most people think?
I see it as lower for right now. If you have Charles Wright, and I think Frank Harris, that's a good offense, but they haven't been performing at the clip they were last year either. So they're still getting it together. So I think it'll be lower scoring. They also haven't faced a good Power 5 team, or what we think is a good Power 5 team. It's still non-con. So I think that'll be adjustment for them. I think they're hurting as well. I think they've been through 2 emotional games. Texas just came off an emotional game. So I do feel it'll be a little bit more grindy. But if we just go out there and light it up, man, that'll kind of show me that, like, all right, Texas is in a different headspace than we had been the past couple of years.
All right, quick word from the Longhorn real estate team, and I'm going to ask Homer about his impact players for the UTSA game on both sides of the ball. Dwell in Austin and Hill Country Mortgages have combined to make your Longhorn real estate team. And for all your real estate needs in the Austin area, you need to visit www.longhornrealestateteam.com, because in a changing, more complex market, you need to work with the top professionals in Austin. And our data and information-driven approach gives our clients a significant advantage. Decades of experience in all market conditions make us able to achieve the best results for our clients. And our clients for years have outperformed the market, leveraging our proprietary research, information, and expertise, which is now more important than ever. Dwell in Austin and Hill Country Mortgages have combined to make your Longhorn real estate team. And for all your real estate needs in the Austin area, make sure you visit www.longhornrealestateteam.com. Hill Country Mortgages, LLC, NMLS 2324262. Jonathan Sarver, NMLS 993872. Equal housing opportunity. All right, Homer. So for Texas to win this game, who are your impact players on offense and defense? Who has to stand out on the offensive side and the defensive side to make sure that Texas gets out of here with the win and starts the season 2-1 going into Texas Tech?
So if it's Charles Wright has to do a good job. If Bijan plays, it'll have to be Bijan. If not, I think Roshan, right? And we have shots with, it's kind of the whole team, man, because there's options everywhere. So you want Worthy to show out, but it's hard with everyone injured. I really don't know. I would say, if I had to pick, I would say the run blocking offensive line unit as a whole. That's what I think the key is to it. And then on defense, you want the edges. Their tackles are really decimated by injury. So Ovi, Sorrell, if they can get after Harris, the interior guys can contain Harris. I think you have a far easier path to a win.
All right. So in this scenario, let's say Charles Wright starts against UTSA. Let's say Hudson Card comes back and he starts against Texas Tech and West Virginia. Let's say Quinn Ewers comes back and he starts against Oklahoma all the way to the Baylor game at the end of the season. In that scenario, does Texas end up in the Big 12 championship game this year, Homer? It's a tough one. I know. I'm putting that pressure on you.
Yeah. I've been watching a lot of Tech and breaking them down. I'm not sold on how their offense is moving right now. I think you can win that. I think it's going to be a tough environment. West Virginia is kind of backed into a corner, and they kind of make me nervous because, like I said, I was saying in the group chat, I can't tell if Kansas, like if them losing to Kansas was just a bad thing, or Kansas looks pretty
better.
Yeah, they look better to me, dude. So it's like Kansas might have some wins too. So
what are they leading FBS in scoring right now? I think Kansas is.
Dude, Jalen Daniels is like on the top of all the Big 12 quarterback categories. So I can't tell if that's just West Virginia is awful or Kansas is improved. So I say, yeah, man. I say you can afford to drop one of West Virginia in Tech, and then Quinn comes back, and if he plays like he did in Alabama, then yeah, I'm confident that we can get to the Big 12 championship.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you can't lose more than 2 games to get there. And so I think, even if we drop one, I think that Quinn can come back and he has one that he can work with. But, I still have confidence in Sark, and really I think they need to lean on that defense. But I think that defense is capable of going out there and leading them to 3 wins the way that they've been playing and the way they played against Alabama. All right, the Texas Homer has made his first appearance on Locked On Longhorns. Hopefully it's not his last appearance on Locked On Longhorns, but y'all know where to find him because most of y'all watch all of his amazing videos. But if they haven't yet, if they've been under a rock, Homer, tell them where they can find your content.
Yeah, just go on YouTube, type in Texas Homer. You'll see my profile. You'll see all my videos. I think there's 120 or something there for you. So just check them out.
Yeah, and as he said in his Twitter bio, punts or turnovers. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Longhorns. Jonathan Davis, your host. Enjoy the UTSA game. And if you see me there, holla at me. Peace.